Raceroom just brought some massive updates, including the force feedback. So I want to take a look and compare it with one of the biggest racing simulations out there right now, Assetto Corsa Competizione. Welcome to Boonatix, the community for sim racing beginners and enthusiasts alike. If you enjoy the content and you haven't done so far, please consider subscribing to the channel. And if you like the video, I would always appreciate you giving me a thumbs up and helping the channel to grow and succeed and bringing you more interesting sim racing content. So I have to say that everyone who has been following me so far on this channel knows that my main focus over the last year was primarily just Assetto Corsa Competizione, and I was looking to get into a different racing simulation the past couple of weeks and months, and I noticed the updates to Automobilista 2, gave it a bit of a try, but couldn't warm up to it for now. I maybe give it another try. So when I saw the update from Raceroom and the force feedback and then checked back on what else they have been doing and what else they have been working on, I just wanted to jump back in because you might not know, Raceroom was actually the first racing simulation game I gave a try over a year ago. I think it was last year in March 2020, before really I got into sim racing and ACC and starting this channel. So the benefit there with Raceroom was that it was completely free to download via Steam, and it had actually quite a few tracks and quite a few different cars available to just drive around completely for free. So quickly changed to Assetto Corsa Competizione, and actually since like April or May 2020 last year, I haven't really touched Raceroom, so this was the perfect opportunity to get back into it. And I have to say I was quite surprised. We hosted our first community event. I tried out different cars. I even bought some more cars, for example the ADAC GT Masters 2020, a GT4 car, some of the tracks, because I thought like I want to play it more and I want to compare it and I want to see how it feels to not only ACC, but like I also want to experience different cars, different terms of driving, and just, you know, gain more experiences and just discover more stuff in the world of sim racing. So I then a few days ago got the idea for this video, and I just like yesterday I think I discovered that someone else already did the exact, well, basically nearly exact the same video already. So greetings go out to Ermin Hamidovic. You did a pretty well video of what I wanted to do. So I was like, okay, damn it. Do I just like forget about this? I already did like all the recordings and I just need to cut it together. So fortunately, I gave it a bit of a different twist. So I hope you guys can stay with me and still keep looking as we do a comparison of my current main car in ACC, which is the Audi R8 GT4 car, and for this I bought the GT4 Audi in Raceroom as well on the Nürburgring layout that we also have in ACC with the fast chicane. So the reason I wanted to do this is not only because Raceroom with the new force feedback feels different and maybe is different, is I just wanted to have like some kind of baseline comparison. I wanted to feel the differences, how Raceroom, the physics, the tire model, the feeling, how is this compared to what I am used to in ACC. For this we have to actually know that in Raceroom there is, I think, just one laser scanned track, and that's actually the Nordschleife. And as far as I could find out, the Nürburgring Grand Prix layout that we are driving is not laser scanned. It's really just the part of the huge Nordschleife. I mean, saying just is kind of hilarious. Well, if we compare that to ACC from Kuno Simulazione, every track so far is laser scanned except one, and that's Zandvoort. They just got an external company to do that for them, and right about now everyone is hoping that they will go there and laser scan, because it's like one hell of a racetrack with like 2 or even 3 banked corners. Another big difference in Raceroom is like the part of like physics, force feedback, but also the setups. So just to show you quickly, the setup screens in Raceroom are structured a bit different. For example, you have just a general tab where you put in the fuel, your brake bias. You have front and rear where everything is compiled together, like the spring rate, the whole suspension, tire pressures, and the anti-roll bar and stuff like that. And then if the car has electronics like ABS and TC, you can find it there. So this is like if we take a look at ACC and also the way it's structured there, you have a bit more tabs, especially like one of the things standing out is the aero balance, and you kind of have different numbers. And so I decided for the video that I don't actually, like for comparison's sake, want to mess with the setups. So I took baseline setups, meaning in Raceroom I just took what was already there, and the only thing I adapted was 30 liters of fuel, and the brake bias was adjusted because I just decreased it to like I think 53 or 54. And in ACC I just basically went to the aggressive preset setup and did a few laps to just adjust the tire pressures, set it to 30 liters of fuel, and also adjusted the brake bias to I think 52 or 53%. And after I did quite a lot of laps actually on both these tracks, I managed to get really close with the lap times. So let me just show you here one screenshot of Raceroom and the screenshot of ACC, and it's really cool to actually see and compare the sector times there. And what I want to say here is actually that yes, I know I'm not an alien and I'm still not doing 100% clean laps, so I really have no clue how much time you can really get out of there. But as you can see, my lap time in Raceroom, I came pretty close. It was actually 1/10 quicker, and if you just check out the sector times, you can see that in the first two sectors I'm actually quicker than in the first two sectors in ACC, but the last sector was then quicker in ACC than in Raceroom. Now, if this is my, you know, lack of like skill or doing mistakes, or if it's maybe a bit in terms of like the line, brake markers, point or whatever. So basically, I think it's my fault. It's not the game's fault. But in terms of feeling and comparing the feeling of ACC and Raceroom, there's just one important thing that I want to get off the chest that also some other people told me is like, try not to compare. Even though I said I wanted to compare, to have like that baseline and know what the differences in feeling are, is like Raceroom has so many different cars. So then one mistake if you get into Raceroom you should not do is like just always compare it to other racing simulations, or try to compare it, because it is feeling different. Also depending on which car you drive and which car class you drive. Some of the classes, like some cars have front wheel drive, some classes like cup cars or open wheelers are meant to feel completely different. And this is something that I had to change in my thinking with the first few tracks and first few different cars I tried. It like I wanted to get the force feedback to feel like in ACC, which was a totally stupid idea because it can't feel the same in different cars. So always bear that in mind when you are getting into Raceroom or another simulation, that they will feel different because the cars are different, and yeah, maybe also the physics are different. But if we look at the track, I want to actually, first of all, show you a full side-by-side comparison of ACC and Raceroom, so you can see the track details, the layout, the differences in the graphics, the differences in the track, and also the differences in the sound. So both two quick laps in each simulation are now side by side. So just enjoy the 2 minutes of Nürburgring in the Audi GT4. So in terms of force feedback settings, let me just show you the settings that I use in the Assetto Corsa Competizione game settings. And then also show you what I set up in the Raceroom force feedback settings in the game. And if you want to know what I used on my CSL Elite wheelbase from Fanatec, just check out the description below, because I write the settings of force feedback intensity, drift and dampening and whatsoever you can do on the CSL Elite wheelbase that I'm still using. I'm still waiting for the CSL DD, by the way. So I'll just compile it in the description below if you want to try out the settings for yourself for comparison sakes. And after watching these 2 laps, I think one of the main differences in like feeling of the 2 cars, actually I was kind of surprised at how easy it was getting into the Audi GT4 in Raceroom, how quickly I was able to adapt to the car going around the track. And that might be because A, I was kind of driving it a lot in ACC, and B, I already knew the track. So it's so cool to see that when you jump into a different racing simulation and go on a track that you already know, that I have to say, comparing it to ACC, it's really hard to put in words, getting across the feeling, but the basic aggressive setup in ACC with the Audi R8 GT4 felt surprisingly well balanced. It was just basically the brake bias that I had to adjust to, I think, 53%. And then the car was really settled in. But the thing you have in ACC is that the cars feel more like on the edge. And especially like when you have quick changes in direction or the weight balance shifts rather quickly, it's pretty easy to lose the car. And it felt like in ACC it's easier to overdrive and over push the Audi GT4, and especially when you are going like just a little bit off the track into the grass, or hit a curb too hard or too much, the car unsettles much more, and ACC is punishing you much more. And now I can't really compare it to the real life. I've never driven a race car. I don't know what the feeling is, so we would have to ask like professional race drivers how it compares there and how much is really realistic. But in Raceroom, the Audi R8 GT4 felt more damp, not so pronounced. But as I was continuing the laps, what I actually felt was like the car was more planted. The tires felt like they were more scrubbing and adapting to the tarmac. And what that enabled me was actually to get quicker up to speed and to push the car more and thrust the car more. And in Raceroom, the Audi R8 GT4 is not as pitch sensitive as it is in ACC. But what I did notice was that if you over push the car, for example, you go way too fast into a corner, try to brake hard and turn it in, the rear end will step out. So the car will definitely punish you for overdriving and over pushing the same way actually ACC is doing it. It just felt safer to change direction, to go on curbs, to cut more of the track. Like going up the Schumacher S's, you could just throw it over the curbs, cut the inside curb and just smash the gas. It felt way more stable and way easier to control the car over there. And also in terms of track limits when leaving the Mercedes arena, it just felt like you could use way more of the track there. If you did the same in ACC, the game would just invalidate the lap. Now the thing is, what I really was struggling with in the beginning were the brake markers, because it felt like some of the brake boards, but especially many of the offside track markers I set for myself, like service roads or like different types of tarmac, stones, all the grass, are definitely different. And if you just jump back to the comparison laps, you will be able to see that. So I had to approach some of the corners differently, and which is also why maybe the lap doesn't look perfectly clean. But it was good enough because it was the same time like in ACC. But so that was the first quick struggle. And one of the other main differences is that the tire temperatures, tire grip in ACC felt it's like coming up way quicker than in Raceroom. While like in the third lap I felt like I could already push the car really well. In Raceroom it took like 4 or even 5 laps until temperatures were building up and the tires felt like I could really push and thrust the car and improve my timings. One other main difference is of course the sound. I watched a lot of onboard videos from different cars, and I have to say sometimes Raceroom is really nailing it and sometimes they don't. And I think, my personal opinion, the Audi R8 GT4 car unfortunately does not sound that good like it does in ACC and like the original one does, while the GT3 version actually sounds much better. But what Raceroom does really well is the gearbox whine. Let me just show you the quick screen here of the options in Raceroom. Look at all the different sound settings you can influence. So while ACC already sounds pretty realistic and immersive out of the box, and you can just adjust sounds like tires or engine to, you know, make it suit yourself more to listen in on what the car is doing and when you get to the limit of the grips, in Raceroom you have much more options. If we talk about the force feedback, it is really strong, it is very pronounced, and I really enjoy that you can increase the force feedback, for example, for gear shifts. I cranked it up a little bit, as you can see in the settings, because I love to feel that when I shift in a gear, it's just one more part of the immersion, you know? And yeah, the rest in the force feedback, as I said, just, it feels different because it is different. And that's why I think my initial impression of it is a bit damp came to be, because it just feels all more, it's a bit more, of course. I still did not fine-tune it. I might find a setting that it's even better, or if you have a force feedback setting for GT3 or GT4 race cars in Raceroom, please just feel free to share it in the comments below. In terms of like when you're losing the car or getting like over the limit, going over curbs, feeling the curbs, sliding across the track, the force feedback is just spot on. It is spot on, and it just enabled me, as well as in ACC, to just quickly correct mistakes in a track, or like, you know, not lose the car and crash into a wall. So yeah, is it better? Is it worse? How does it compare? I think I explained it fair enough, and I would just encourage anyone who is like looking for more racing simulation and more fun to just get Raceroom. Even if you're just using the free content, but always keep that open mind. If you just got into sim racing and maybe you just started with Automobilista 2 or R Factor or ACC or the classic AC, keep this open mind. Yes, the cars will feel different, the force feedback will feel different, but that's not a bad thing. What I just noticed is that while driving in ACC and then driving in Raceroom and then driving in ACC again is, as funny as it may sound, I could take some of the things I experienced and I saw in Raceroom while driving around the track into ACC and approach one or two corners where I was struggling a bit differently. So it might sound weird to some of these aliens out there, but it actually is really fascinating, and I don't think that it kind of messes up my muscle memory or will just make me slower in the ACC. I think it's actually the opposite. Driving other racing simulations that are, I think, as pronounced in terms of like force feedback like Raceroom is, and you know, in terms of physics and reality, will help you in the long run in other sim racing games, because it all just comes down to establish that feeling and establish the limits of the car and the track, and our only connection to a racing simulation game is the steering wheel and the force feedback. So I'm really curious to see how this will play out in the future while playing more Raceroom, playing more ACC, and potentially also getting into other sim racing games. So I hope you enjoyed the video. I hope it was helpful and interesting to you. If it was, please don't forget to subscribe and give the video a thumbs up to support the channel and not miss out on any future updates. I'm planning on doing more comparison videos and more Raceroom activities, and also we have more community races going on. Just join the Simracing GP community, the link is below, which is the most amazing platform if you just want, you know, to join different racing leagues, various community, and just have awesome, amazing racing experience. And we will be hosting regular ACC, but also Raceroom free content events every week. And I will also expand on like more activities and maybe one race in Raceroom every week, or like, let's see, once or twice a month with other content to just see how the interest is. So if you just want to try out Raceroom or want to experience really respectful and exciting GT4 and mixed grid races in ACC, the Boonatix community got you covered. And after such a long time of talking and before losing my voice, there's actually nothing more else to say than I thank you so much for watching. Let me know what you think in the comments. Let me know what your impressions is, what you think about Raceroom in comparison to ACC. And I guess I'll see you in my next live stream. Stay safe, take care. See you soon. Bye bye.